Happy Sunday, everyone. So I hope that wherever you are joining me from, you enjoy the dessert that we're going to be making today. Now just let me get you looking where we want you to be looking. Okay, so today we're going to be making a springtime dessert because springtime is almost here. I was at a spring market yesterday in Liqueur, Alberta, and I had an amazing time. There were so many incredible people there. It's so nice to see people's smiles again. I was very grateful for that. And this morning, I hope you have an amazing hot cup of coffee, because that's how I start Sunday mornings off. And yeah, mornings without coffee, don't do it. This morning I am using a sugar-free Da Vinci coconut liqueur syrup in my coffee, and it is delicious. Good morning. Oh, thanks for being here, Mom. Okay, so if you don't have a cup of coffee, make sure you grab one at some point. If you're watching this live, make sure you say hi and let me know you're here. If you're watching the replay, you're definitely not going to want to miss this, because we are making an incredible key lime dessert today. Now, I am just going to set this down here. Okay. We're going to use coconut flour. We're going to make a crust for this, and it's like a graham cracker crust. And instead of using almond flour, which we've done before when we've gotten together, we're going to use coconut flour, because coconut and lime just seem like they really go together perfectly. So that's what I did. Pardon me. I have one of those going on in my throat. So what we're going to do is turn our frying pan on. And you want to see the frying pan? Okay, let's do this. There we go. So a little bit of the frying pan here. There we are. I'm thinking that we are not going to need garlic in this recipe. Okay, so frying pan, we don't want it on high. We want it turned on about 2 or 3, because we're going to toast this coconut flour before we do anything else with it. Whether it's almond flour, pecan flour, almond flour, anytime you're using something with the word nut in it, pretty much, you want to make sure that you take time to toast it. Now, if you've ever tasted plain coconut and compared that to toasted coconut, you know exactly why I'm doing this. And not only does it give it amazing flavor, but it's going to give it amazing color. So we're going to take a couple minutes to toast this coconut flour just in a dry pan. So you don't want to be adding anything other than that. And then we are going to add some TSL Organic Ceylon cinnamon. If you're adding cinnamon to something, you definitely, oh my goodness. Now see, this is what happens. This is what happens, first of all, when I don't get ready the night before. Second of all, when I have a little bit of cream in my coffee. Oh, and there we go. We'll just make a bit of a mess, but that's okay. Now, you guys are going to have a much smaller jar of cinnamon in your cupboard than I do. I have things in gallons and 2 gallons and 3 gallons, because there are a lot of people wanting TSL Organics stuff, I am very glad to say. And if you don't have TSL, hi Del, if you don't have TSL spices in your cupboard and you would like to change that, then just let me know, because we can definitely make that happen, especially if you're living in central Alberta. We'll find a way to make that happen for you. Now we're going to let this toast a little bit, and while we're doing that, I'm going to show you something that we haven't done together before. I'm going to show you how to use a whipped cream charger. Now, if you have a whipped cream charger, now this is a big one. Just let me change my screen here so you can see this. So remind me to keep an eye on the flour. The whipped cream charger comes with several pieces, but the 2 main pieces, and this is a 1 liter container, and the lid you have to make sure that the seal in the lid is in there well. Now we are going to use, about 2 cups of whipped cream. Should we measure it out perfectly? Let's do that. Okay, so you want whipping cream and you want it to be cold. Anytime you're doing whipped cream, you want it to be cold. Now that's 1 cup. This is 2 cups. Now I'm not going to put all of it in the charger, and I'll show you why. If you are using any kind of powdered sugar, you want to mix it in the cream first. So we have a little bit of powdered sugar that we're going to add right into the measuring cup. There we go. And then as well, we're going to add a little bit of vanilla. And you can do this to taste. If you like your whipped cream sweeter, pardon me, if you like your whipped cream sweeter, then you can add a little bit more vanilla or a little bit more sugar. If you like it not so sweet, then a little bit less sugar. Now that we have those things together, we need to, and look at that. I'm going to show you guys what's going on here. We need to change this again. Okay, look at how beautifully this is toasting. And when it's toasting like that, it is making amazing, beautiful flavor. So you can see the color is going to be much closer to graham cracker, which is exactly what we're going for. And it's just going to give that incredible toasted coconut flavor. Okay, we have our cream, our sugar, or sweetener. So this is powdered erythritol. And I'm just beating that up a little bit with a whisk to get the lumps out. If you put it straight into your charger, unless you sift it, and even then sometimes. Now this, once this starts toasting, you see how fast this is happening now. Okay, now we have this toasted. We'll get back to our whipped cream. We're going to add 90 grams of butter right into there. We're going to add 50 grams of powdered sweetener and a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, which I probably should have put in while the coconut flour was still dry. Now this, it looks like a lot of butter, but what you have to remember about this is coconut flour absorbs a tremendous amount of liquid. So this isn't nearly as much as it looks like it is. If you want to leave the butter out completely and just use it dry, that's fine. But coconut flour is really, if you just take a spoon and eat it, it tastes good, but it just makes your mouth stick closed. So this coconut flour is going to absorb this butter, and it's going to give us a nice crumbly texture to add into our key lime dessert that we're making. Now that is as easy as it is. It's butter, it's coconut flour. You can use coconut oil. If you don't want to use butter, you can use coconut oil. And you just are mixing it until it's thoroughly incorporated, and we're going to turn this off. And look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. And it was just that easy. Now we're going to put this in a bowl. This pan, the burner is off just that fast. And I'm seeing somebody go, I'm guessing that the coconut flour would not have been, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Coconut flour would not have been Dell's first choice, but the key lime dessert that I'm making may not have been his first choice either, so that's okay. Now we're just going to dump this right into this bowl, and the coconut flour will continue to absorb the oils and any moisture out of the butter, and it's going to get crumbly and yummy. And when we put it into our dishes for our dessert, it's going to be amazingly delicious. Okay, so that can just stay right there. And we're just going to move over here a little bit and going to work on, get this out of our way, we're going to work on our whipped cream. And make a mess, which is why, as you know, I always have a cloth right here, which was not exactly in my pocket this morning, but that's okay. So one part done, and it only took a couple of minutes. Now I have the cream, the vanilla, and the sweetener in here. We've got it whipped up, so hopefully it's not going to be lumpy. And add that right to the charger so we don't have to actually whip this cream. Oh, let's just scrape this out because we don't want to lose, when you do this, you don't want to lose any of the vanilla or sweetener that you've got in there. So we'll just give this a bit of a scrape. Whoops. There we go. Okay, now, the next part, every bit is easy, and I forgot, oh, there we go, do not disturb. Now, nobody is going to be bugging us. I've made a mess on the side. You want to make sure that you've got a good seal, so make sure these threads are clean. But the cream in the charger, the sweetener, a little bit of cream, a little bit of vanilla, also in the charger. Lid goes on. Now, the one thing that you need to buy, as well as your whipped cream charger, is the little nitrogen, 8-gram nitrogen cylinders. And this is how easy it is. So this cap comes with it, nitrogen cylinder in. You screw this on. As you screw it on, you're screwing it onto the, you hear that? That little, that was it releasing into the cylinder. Don't take the cap off right away. You want to leave that on for a minute. Now the other side, you see the other port here, the other side is for the dispenser tip. So we want to shake this about 30-40 times maybe. So that takes a minute, but not nearly as long as doing whipped cream by hand. Now if you don't have a whipped cream charger, and I know a lot of people don't, put it in a bowl, turn your mixer on. As soon as it starts to make stiff peaks, then it's good. Now usually if you're doing a bigger batch of whipped cream, you would add a little bit of cream of tartar to it. Cream of tartar makes it stiffer, makes it stand up better. Okay, now I will show you how we test this to make sure. You're not going to be able to see it in that. We'll use a little blue bowl. Okay, so I'm going to show you my coffee. This coffee liqueur sweetener, I just love it. It is so delicious. Okay. So let's set this out of the way for a moment. So when you have this all shaken up, as much as you need it shaken, you just try a little dab. And if it comes out whipped cream, you are good to go. So it's just that easy. You don't need a mixer. You don't need anything other than the little cylinder. Now once that's done, we know that we have whipped cream. It's ready. We take this off. You'll hear a bit of a hiss. Whoops. Oh, that hurt. Landed right on my toe. Okay, now my cylinder is MIA, but it goes into your recycle. And you put the big cap back on the nitrogen port, and we have our whipped cream ready to go. So we have our graham crust, we have our whipped cream. Next, let's do our filling. You can go to the store when they're in season and you can buy key limes. I don't. And I don't go to the store and buy key limes because they're little teeny tiny limes. They're fussy and mussy and just a pain in the butt. So I buy key lime juice, and that's what I would highly recommend that you do as well. Now we need 75 grams of cream cheese. And I'm just going to be dropping stuff today, apparently. Okay, 75 grams of cream cheese. Pardon me. And 45 grams of sweetener. And we're going to cream this together. Make sure your cream cheese is soft. It's going to be so difficult to work with if it isn't. Now you can use a hand mixer. You can use whatever you like to do this. But because this is such a small amount, I'm just going to use a spoon, and we're going to get this sweetener creamed in. And once we get the sweetener creamed in, we're going to add about half a cup of whipped cream. Oh my goodness. Okay, you know why that happens. We've had this discussion before. That is the aftermath of me having cream. It's common for a lot of people, apparently. And it is certainly common for me, and yet, even though I knew that we were going to be getting together today, I had whipped cream. Okay, so you can see that that is creamed together very nicely. Now we're going to add about half a cup of whipped cream. Now this is making 2 servings, and I didn't want to do a big batch because oftentimes we're at home alone or we have one person coming over. I want to make sure that the batches that we do, you can make them larger, but sometimes it is more difficult to make a batch smaller. So we are just going to concentrate on small batches for people that don't have as many people in their house. Now, if you want to do this for several people, there's not a reason in the world. You've got the kids at home, do a few batches, but let them do their own. Add their own sweetener. Now we want to mix this up thoroughly, and to this we're going to add our key lime juice. Now that takes a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? You can use, so I see Dell said, can you use your sugar-free sweetener in your whipped cream charger to change the flavor? You can. If you're going to do that, though, you need to be very, very careful how much you use, because the whipped cream may not have the consistency that you want, but absolutely you can do that. And you can use a little bit of your sweetener to get a different flavor, and a little bit of powdered sweetener as well. If you're going to do that, though, put the entire amount of cream into a container and sweeten it to taste, and then put it in your whipped cream charger and charge it so that you know exactly how much you need, and keep track. So I have a small measuring cup that I can put up to, where is it here? 150 milliliters or 10 tablespoons. Now, if you fill one of these with your sweetener, you know exactly how much you've put in your bowl. Okay, now we have this not smooth. Now we're going to take another half cup-ish. Now this is not an exact science. We want this nice and light and fluffy. So we add the whipped cream to it. You're not using a lot of cream cheese. And then we're just going to whip this until it's thoroughly incorporated and nice and smooth and creamy and beautiful. And it will be ready to go in whatever vessel you choose. Okay. you can see the more we whip this, the smoother it gets, the more beautiful it is. Now you can use a hand mixer to do this, you can use a whisk, you can use a spoon, you can do it however you want, and it can be as smooth as you want it or not. Now we are running out of time, so let's get this assembled. We're going to set that aside for a minute. We're going to, okay, now look at, you saw before that this was looking a little bit greasy, but look at it now. It has absorbed that oil, and it is nice and crumbly, exactly the way we want it for our dessert. That is delicious. Okay. So let's get this crumbled up a little bit so that it looks kind of like graham cracker crust. And we don't need to add any more my brain just totally went blank. We don't need to add any more butter. If you were making a graham cracker crust in a pan, you wouldn't add any more either, because this would just get pressed down before it bakes. So we're going to add a wee bit in the bottom of the cup. Now, coconut flour does have some carbs in it, not a lot, but some. And remember, there's really nothing much in here except for sweetener, butter, and coconut flour. And the butter has no carbs, and the sweetener has no net carbs. So we're just going to put a little bit in the glass, and there's maybe 1 gram of net carbs in there. Now this is definitely more than 2 servings, but that's okay, because you can put this in a container in the fridge, and when you taste this cream cheese filling that we're going to put in here, you're definitely going to want to make it again. So you're going to want more in the fridge. Okay, now it is this easy. Now you can use a piping bag if you want to do this. Now I have company coming for supper tonight, and we are going to have coconut shrimp and moose tenderloin for supper. And I wanted to have a nice, light, springy dessert to have with it as well. And this just seemed to fit the bill, because who doesn't like key lime? Well, actually, I know a few people that don't like key lime, but I like them anyway. Okay, now this does not need to be a great big huge cup of dessert, because it's incredibly rich, and you're having it for dessert. You're not having it as your main meal. Now you can see that I have made a little bit of a mess on the sides of the glass, so we're just going to scrape that off a little bit. Yep, that is amazingly delicious. Just clean up the edge of our glass. Now if you use a piping bag, you're not going to have to worry about having this little bit of a mess on the edge of your glass, but you want to store this in the fridge until it's time for your dessert. And you want to make sure that you're using a clean cloth if you're scraping out the bags. Now we are just going to put a little dollop of whipped cream on top. And sprinkle a little bit of our crust on top for decoration. And there we have an amazingly beautiful key lime dessert. Now, should we use some of the leftovers and see what it tastes like? I'm thinking maybe that's a good idea. Okay, so I am just going to add a little bit in here. I'm not going to put a crust on the bottom, because I'm going to add a little bit on top. A little bit of whipped cream, just so that we have a bite. And just a bite's worth of the crust on top, so that we get the full flavor. Are you jealous? How much key? Oh, you know what? I thought I said, but maybe I didn't. 50 milliliters of key lime juice. So a little better than 3 tablespoons. Now, if you really like intense key lime flavor, you can add more to that if you want. But remember, you're adding a citrus, so it's got acid in it, and there's cream. So you don't want to add enough that it's going to break the cream down. So yeah, just be careful that way. Well, I'll tell you, I see one problem with this dessert, and that problem is substantial, actually. I only made 2, and I'm not really sure that I want to share. So that is a quick and easy key lime dessert. If you can't find key lime juice, or you want to use regular limes instead, you can definitely do that. Please do not buy bottles of lime juice or lemon juice. Go and buy a fresh lemon or a fresh lime. And if it's more than you're going to use right then, throw it in the freezer. Zest it if you want, but just throw it in the freezer. You can juice it and make cubes. We've done that before, but you don't need to waste it. And you don't need to use the bottled stuff that has the whatever it is in it. So I hope all of you have an amazing Sunday, and go and find a cup of coffee or tea. Just because you like it sweet doesn't mean you need to use sugar, because there are definitely alternatives. I hope all of you do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work really hard to not eat these desserts before supper tonight. And maybe when we get together another day, we will do the coconut shrimp that I'm doing for supper tonight. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd like to see. Have a great Sunday.